Captain Saracen stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the alien space station grow larger through the viewports. 3 months of travel through hyperspace had led to this moment. Humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Federation. The diplomatic vessel hummed quietly around her, its research labs and cultural exchange facilities a testament to Earth's peaceful intentions. "Captain, we're receiving their docking instructions," reported Communications Officer Martinez, his voice carrying barely contained excitement. "They're directing us to Base 7. Sarah nodded, smoothing her dress uniform. The Harmony wasn't much to look at. A converted research vessel hastily retrofitted with diplomatic quarters and translation equipment. But it represented something unprecedented. Humanity's first step into the greater galactic community. "Any word from the advanced team?" she asked. "Ambassador Williams reports the preliminary meetings went well. The Federation Council has agreed to hear our petition for associate membership." Through the viewports, the station revealed itself in all its alien majesty. Crystalline spires twisted impossibly through space, connected by bridges that seemed to defy physics. Ships of dozens of different species moved in complex patterns around the structure, their designs as varied as their origins. The docking procedure went smoothly. Sarah had trained for years for this moment, studying every available piece of information about the Federation species. The Zephyrians with their translucent skin and multifaceted eyes. The hulking Korath whose rocky exteriors had surprisingly gentle natures. The graceful Sylvani who communicated through harmonic frequencies as much as words. Ambassador Williams met them at the airlock, his weathered face showing strain. "Captain, we need to talk before the formal presentation." They walked through corridors that seemed to pulse with organic light, past beings that stopped to stare at the strange new visitors. Sarah had expected curiosity, but there was something else in their expressions, something that made her uncomfortable. "The preliminary meetings didn't go as well as I reported," Williams said quietly. "There's been resistance to our application." "What kind of resistance?" "They're questioning our qualifications, our technological level, our military capacity, our ability to contribute to Federation security." Sarah frowned. "We've been transparent about our capabilities. We're not trying to deceive anyone." That's exactly the problem. They entered a vast chamber where representatives from hundreds of species sat in tiered galleries. The architecture was designed to humble visitors. Everything about the space emphasized the Federation's power and the petitioner's insignificance. The Zephyrian Chancellor, her crystalline form refracting light into rainbow patterns, spoke first. "Humans of Earth, you have traveled far to reach us. Your petition for associate membership has been reviewed." Sarah stepped forward, her prepared speech ready. But the Chancellor's next words stopped her cold. "Your species arrives with a single ship, one vessel to represent an entire world. This suggests either extreme arrogance or complete ignorance of galactic realities." Murmurs rippled through the assembled representatives. Sarah felt Ambassador Williams tense beside her. "Chancellor, the Harmony is a diplomatic vessel. We come in peace, seeking—" "Peace is a luxury afforded to those strong enough to defend it," interrupted a Korath delegate, his voice like grinding stone. "Your world sends one ship to make first contact, one ship to defend your interests, one ship to face the dangers of space." The Sylvani representative added her harmonic tones to the discussion. "In our databases, we find no record of human military vessels, no evidence of a fleet, no demonstration of the strength required for Federation membership." Sarah's mind raced. They weren't wrong. The Harmony was indeed Earth's only interstellar vessel. Humanity had poured everything into this single ship, this one chance at peaceful contact. But the aliens were interpreting their peaceful approach as weakness. "We believe in diplomacy first," Sarah said carefully. "Surely the Federation values peaceful resolution." "The Federation values stability." The Chancellor cut her off. "Your species' naivety about galactic realities makes you a liability. Pirates, slavers, and worse prey on the weak. You will become a burden we cannot afford." The chamber filled with alien voices expressing agreement. Sarah felt the moment slipping away, humanity's future hanging by a thread. "We respectfully request time to address your concerns," she said. Perhaps we can demonstrate. Demonstration? The Koroth delegate laughed. A sound like rock slides. What could you possibly demonstrate with one ship? One crew? One world that barely reaches beyond its own star system. Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. This wasn't going according to any scenario they prepared for. The aliens weren't just questioning humanity's qualifications. They were dismissing them entirely. The petition is denied, the Chancellor announced. Furthermore, we advise your species to remain in your home system until you develop the capability to defend yourselves. The galaxy is not kind to children playing with toys. The great chamber erupted in what Sarah realized was laughter. Hundreds of species, united in their amusement at humanity's expense. The sound echoed off the impossible architecture, a symphony of mockery that would haunt her dreams. Ambassador Williams gripped her arm. "Captain, we need to leave. Now." But Sarah stood frozen, watching their dreams of peaceful contact crumble around them. They'd come so far, hoped for so much, and now they were being dismissed like primitive savages. The laughter followed them all the way back to the Harmony. The journey back to Earth felt endless. Sarah spent most of it in her quarters, staring at the reports she'd have to deliver. How do you tell an entire species that their first contact was a humiliating failure? That their peaceful intentions were seen as weakness? That they were considered too primitive to join the galactic community? "Captain," Martinez's voice crackled through the comm. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Harrison wants to speak with you immediately." Sarah made her way to the communications array, dreading the conversation ahead. Admiral Harrison's weathered face appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. "Captain Chun, I've reviewed your preliminary reports. The Federation rejected our petition." "Yes, sir. They found our military capabilities insufficient." Harrison was quiet for a long moment. "Did you mention the Harmony's actual purpose?" "Sir, they assumed we were a military vessel. We didn't correct them because you were following diplomatic protocols." "I understand." Harrison's expression grew grim. "Captain, there's something you need to know. The Federation has dispatched a fleet to Earth's solar system." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "A fleet? Why?" "According to their transmission, they're conducting a security assessment of our system. They want to verify that we're not hiding military assets that could pose a threat to Federation interests." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. They think we're lying about our capabilities. Worse, intelligence suggests some Federation members believe Earth might be worth acquiring, a defenseless world with resources and a population that could be useful. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering the laughter in the great chamber. How long until they arrive? 6 weeks. Maybe less if they push their engines. "Admiral, we need to warn them. If they're coming to Earth expecting no resistance." "Captain, you're to maintain communications blackout until you reach Earth. Whatever happens next, the Federation cannot know it came from the Harmony." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. She'd failed in her mission to establish peaceful contact. Now Earth might pay the price. The rest of the journey passed in a blur of sleepless nights and growing dread. When Earth finally appeared on their screens, Sarah felt no relief, only the weight of what was coming. Earth Command's orbital station looked exactly as she'd left it, a collection of research platforms and industrial modules that screamed peaceful civilization to any observer. But Sarah knew that appearances could be deceiving. Admiral Harrison met them at the docking bay, his face grim. "Captain, your crew is to be debriefed and sworn to secrecy. What they learn about the Federation stays classified." "Sir, what about the incoming fleet?" "Leave that to us. You've done your job, Captain. Now we do ours." Sarah wanted to argue, to demand answers, but the Admiral's expression brooked no discussion. As her crew was led away for debriefing, she caught a glimpse of something through the station's viewports that made her pause. Ships were moving in Earth's outer system, not the familiar industrial vessels she knew, but sleek, predatory shapes that seemed to swallow light. They moved with purpose, taking positions around the solar system's edge. "Admiral," she called out, but Harrison was already gone. Days passed in a haze of debriefings and reports. Sarah found herself confined to quarters, officially for psychological evaluation after the stressful first contact mission. But she suspected the real reason was to keep her from asking too many questions. The Federation fleet arrived exactly when predicted. Sarah watched from her quarters as dozens of alien vessels dropped out of hyperspace, their exotic designs beautiful and terrifying. They moved with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. The lead ship, a Zephyrian command vessel, broadcast on all frequencies. "Primitive humans, we come to assess your true capabilities. Surrender all military assets for inspection. Resistance will be met with appropriate force." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. The arrogance in that transmission was breathtaking. They'd come to Earth expecting to find a defenseless world, ready to be cataloged and potentially conquered. The response came not from Earth Command, but from the edge of the solar system. A voice Sarah didn't recognize, cold and professional. "Federation Fleet, this is Admiral Zhang of the Terran Defense Force. You are in violation of human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Sarah's blood ran cold. Terran Defense Force? She'd never heard of any such organization. As far as she knew, humanity had no military fleet beyond a few patrol vessels. The Federation response was swift and dismissive. "Humans, we detected no military vessels in your system. Your bluff is transparent. Comply with our demands or face the consequences of defying the Federation." What happened next would haunt Sarah for the rest of her life. The stars began to move. What she thought were asteroids, what the Federation had dismissed as space debris, suddenly blazed alive. Massive ships, hundreds of them, uncloaked throughout the solar system. They were unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. Angular, predatory, built for one purpose: war. The Federation fleet found themselves surrounded by vessels that dwarfed their own, ships that had been waiting, hidden, patient. "Federation fleet," came Admiral Zhang's voice again, now carrying a tone that made Sarah's spine crawl. "You came to assess our capabilities. Consider this your assessment." The Federation fleet hung motionless in space, their sensors undoubtedly screaming warnings as they processed what they were seeing. Sarah pressed her face against the viewport, trying to comprehend the massive ships that had seemingly materialized from nowhere. The lead Federation vessel, a Zephyrian dreadnought that had seemed imposing moments before, now looked like a toy beside the nearest human ship. The Terran vessel stretched for kilometers, its hull covered in weapon systems that had never appeared in any public database. "This is impossible," Sarah whispered. "We don't have ships like this." Admiral Zhang's voice cut through space again, and this time Sarah could hear something in it that made her blood freeze. Anticipation. "Federation fleet, you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal procedures. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war." The Zephyrian Chancellor's response crackled across all frequencies, no longer dismissive but edged with something that might have been fear. "Humans, these vessels do not match any intelligence reports. Where did you acquire such technology?" "We built it," came the simple reply. "Did you think we were sleeping?" Sarah's mind raced. The implications were staggering. While she'd been training for diplomatic missions, while the world had been preparing for a peaceful contact, someone had been building a fleet, a massive, hidden fleet that suggested humanity had been preparing for war all along. The Federation fleet began to move, but not in withdrawal. They were forming attack formations, their pride apparently overriding their common sense. "So be it," Admiral Zhang said, and Sarah heard something in his voice that made her soul shrivel. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 17 minutes. The human ships moved with precision that spoke of years of training and preparation. They didn't fire first. They didn't need to. When the Federation fleet opened fire, their weapons struck shields that barely flickered. The return fire was devastating. Sarah watched in horror as Federation vessels were systematically dismantled. Not destroyed, dismantled. The human weapons seemed designed to disable rather than kill, cutting through alien hulls with surgical precision, leaving crews alive but helpless. The Zephyrian dreadnought, pride of their fleet, found itself held in place by some kind of tractor beam technology that shouldn't have existed. Smaller human vessels swarmed around it like predators, their weapons carving through its defenses. "Cease fire," The Chancellor's voice was raw with desperation. "We surrender. We surrender." The human fleet stopped firing instantly, their discipline absolute. But they didn't withdraw. They maintained their positions, a steel trap around the remnants of the Federation force. "Chancellor," Admiral Zhang's voice carried across space, calm and controlled. "You came to assess our capabilities. Are you satisfied?" Through the static, Sarah could hear the alien leaders breathing. "How long? How long have you been preparing for this?" "Since the moment we achieved interstellar travel. Did you think we would venture into an unknown galaxy without preparing for the worst?" The truth hit Sarah like a physical blow. The Harmony hadn't been humanity's first interstellar vessel. It had been their first diplomatic vessel. While she'd been training for peaceful contact, humanity had been building a war machine. "Your intelligence was flawed," Admiral Zhang continued. "You assumed that because we sent one ship for diplomacy, we had only one ship. You confuse our desire for peace with inability to wage war." Sarah thought about the laughter in the Federation chamber, the casual dismissal of humanity's petition. They'd been so certain of their superiority, so confident in their assessment of human capabilities. The humans who came to your station were diplomats, not soldiers. Admiral Zhang's voice carried a note of something that might have been regret. They came hoping for peace, believing in the possibility of cooperation. You chose to mock them instead. The Admiral's next word sent ice through Sarah's veins. That was a mistake. Admiral Harrison appeared at Sarah's quarters, his face pale. "Captain, you need to see this." He led her to the command center, where displays showed the tactical situation throughout the solar system. The Federation fleet was completely surrounded, their vessels disabled but intact. But that wasn't what made Sarah's hand shake. It was the sheer scale of the human fleet. Hundreds of ships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. Carriers that could launch swarms of fighters. Battleships that could crack planets. Destroyers that moved like dancers through space. "How long?" Sarah asked, her voice barely audible. 70 years, Harrison replied. "Ever since we detected the first signs of galactic civilization. We've been preparing for this moment since before you were born." But the Harmony was exactly what we said it was. A diplomatic vessel, carrying people who genuinely believed in peaceful contact. We needed the Federation to see our true intentions, not an act. Sarah understood now. The Harmony had been a test, not of human capabilities, but of alien intentions. If the Federation had responded with genuine interest in cooperation, perhaps none of this would have been necessary. "They failed the test," she said. "Spectacularly." On the screens, the aftermath of the battle continued to unfold. Human ships were conducting rescue operations, pulling Federation survivors from disabled vessels. Even in victory, they were showing more mercy than their enemies had shown in their moment of assumed superiority. Admiral Zhang's voice filled the command center. "Chancellor, you will return to your Federation with a message. Humanity seeks peace, but we are prepared for war. Any future contact will be conducted with proper respect for our sovereignty." The Chancellor's response was barely above a whisper. What are you?" "We are what you made us," came the reply. "We are the species you dismissed as primitive. We are the people whose peaceful overtures you mocked. We are humanity." Sarah watched as the surviving Federation ships were allowed to withdraw, their crews undoubtedly carrying tales that would spread throughout the galaxy. The humans who had seemed so weak, so naive, had revealed themselves as perhaps the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. The worst part was the realization that this had always been the plan. The aftermath of the battle settled over Earth like a shroud. Sarah found herself in a secure briefing room deep within Earth Command, facing a panel of officers she'd never seen before. Their uniforms bore insignia she didn't recognize, symbols that spoke of a military organization that had existed in the shadows for decades. Captain Chun, the lead officer, a woman with steel gray hair and eyes like winter ice, began. "I'm Admiral Voss, director of the Terran Defense Initiative. We need to discuss what happens next." Sarah looked around the room, noting the mix of familiar faces and strangers. Admiral Harrison was there, but his expression suggested he was as much a student as she was. "The Defense Initiative?" Sarah asked. The organization responsible for everything you witness today. We've been operating independently of regular military command for 70 years, preparing for the day when humanity would need to defend itself against galactic threats. Admiral Voss activated a holographic display that showed the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of the massive human fleet, still maintaining their defensive perimeter. Your mission aboard the Harmony was crucial to our plans, Captain. We needed to understand the Federation's true nature before revealing our capabilities. You used us, Sarah said, her voice flat. You used the entire crew as unwitting bait. We used you as diplomats, Voss corrected. Your genuine desire for a peaceful contact was essential. If you had known about the fleet, your sincerity would have been compromised. Sarah felt sick. How many others knew? Fewer than 1,000 people across the entire planet. The Defense Initiative has operated on a need-to-know basis since its inception. Admiral Harrison leaned forward. Sarah, I know this is difficult, but you need to understand the scope of what we're dealing with. The Federation isn't just a political organization. It's a predatory system that has conquered or absorbed hundreds of species over millennia. The holographic display shifted, showing star charts with vast areas marked in red. These are former independent civilizations, Voss explained. All now Federation members, whether they chose to be or not. The process is always the same: diplomatic contact, assessment of capabilities, and then either absorption or conquest. So we prepared for war, Sarah said bitterly. We prepared for survival, Voss corrected. Everything we built, every ship in our fleet, was designed with one goal: ensuring that humanity would never be forced to choose between slavery and extinction. Sarah thought about the laughter in the Federation chamber, the casual dismissal of human worth. They were never going to accept us as equals. No, at best, we would have been junior partners, allowed to exist as long as we remained useful. At worst, Voss left the sentence unfinished. The display showed detailed schematics of human ships, their technology far beyond anything Sarah had imagined possible. How? She asked. How did we develop all this without the galaxy noticing? Carefully, Admiral Harrison replied. Every advancement was hidden, every ship built in secret. We used asteroid mining operations as cover, industrial platforms as disguises. The fleet you saw today was assembled piece by piece over 7 decades. Admiral Voss stood, her expression grave. Captain, the Federation fleet that withdrew today will reach their territory in approximately 3 weeks. When they do, they'll carry tales of humanity's military capabilities that will shock the galaxy. Good, Sarah said with more venom than she intended. Let them know what happens when they underestimate us. You don't understand, Voss said quietly. This was never about revenge. It was about survival. And now that survival is in jeopardy. The holographic display shifted again, showing long-range sensor data. We've detected massive fleet movements throughout Federation space. They're mobilizing everything, a war fleet that dwarfs what we face today. Sarah's blood ran cold. They're coming back. Not just coming back. They're coming in force. Our intelligence suggests they're preparing to make an example of us, to show every species in the galaxy what happens when you defy the Federation. Admiral Harrison pulled up tactical projections. Current estimates suggest they'll arrive with at least 3,000 ships. Maybe more. Can we stop them? Sarah asked. Voss and Harrison exchanged glances. We don't know, Voss admitted. Our fleet was designed to defend against exploratory forces, not full-scale invasion armadas. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. If I hadn't gone to the Federation, they would have found us eventually. Voss cut her off. First contact was inevitable. This way, we control the timing and circumstances. But now we're facing extinction. Now we're facing our greatest test, Voss corrected. Captain, we need you to understand something. The battle you witnessed today was just the beginning. What's coming will determine whether humanity survives as a free species or becomes another footnote in the Federation's history. Sarah looked around the room, seeing fear and determination in equal measure. What do you need from me? Your crew knows the Federation better than anyone else alive. They've seen their technology, their tactics, their psychology. We need that knowledge. And then Admiral Voss's expression grew harder. Then we prepare for the storm, because when the Federation returns, they won't be coming to assess our capabilities. They'll be coming to end us. Outside the briefing room, Sarah could see Earth spinning peacefully in the void, its cities glowing softly in the darkness. Soon, that peace would be shattered by the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity had reached for the stars hoping to find friends and allies. Instead, they'd found enemies who would stop at nothing to destroy them. But as she watched the human fleet maintaining their vigil at the system's edge, Sarah felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. They might be facing impossible odds, but they wouldn't face them alone, and they wouldn't face them unprepared. The galaxy had mocked humanity's peaceful intentions. Now it would learn why that had been a mistake. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, no longer a diplomat, but a tactical advisor in humanity's desperate preparation for war. The ship around her was nothing like the peaceful Harmony. It was a predator built for one purpose, its hull bristling with weapons that shouldn't have existed. "Contact," reported the sensor officer, his voice tight with control fear. Hyperspace signatures detected at the system's edge. Multiple contacts. Admiral Zhang's voice crackled across the fleet communication system. "All units. This is Zeus Actual. Contacts are confirmed Federation Warfleet. Count is Jesus Christ." Sarah felt her heart hammering as the displays updated. Not 3,000 ships, but 5,000, maybe more. The Federation had mobilized forces from across the galaxy, creating an armada that blotted out the stars. "Admiral," Sarah said quietly, "they're not just here to conquer us. They're here to make an example." Zhang's response was grim. "Then we'll give them one hell of a lesson." The Federation fleet arranged itself in a massive formation, their ships creating geometric patterns that spoke of overwhelming confidence. At the center, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest human ships, the Federation's mobile command fortress. Chancellor's voice, when it came, carried none of the fear from their last encounter. "Primitive humans, you have violated the Galactic Order. Your deception will not be tolerated. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Sarah watched Admiral Zhang's tactical display, seeing the impossible odds they faced. The human fleet, hidden throughout the solar system, numbered barely 400 ships. They were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. "This is Admiral Zhang of the Terran Defense Force," came the reply. "You are invading human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Federation response was laughter, the same mocking laughter that had followed Sarah from their first meeting. But now it came from 5,000 ships, a sound that should have been terrifying. Instead, Sarah found herself smiling. "Admiral," she said quietly, "they still don't understand." "No," Zhang replied, his voice carrying a note of anticipation. "They don't." The battle began with the Federation's opening salvo, a wave of destruction that should have obliterated the human fleet. Instead, it struck barriers that held firm, energy shields that absorbed impossible amounts of damage. The human response was surgical, not the overwhelming firepower that had characterized their previous engagement, but something far more terrifying. Precision strikes that found every weakness in the Federation formation. "Phase 1 complete," Zhang announced. "All units, execute Protocol 7. Sarah watched in amazement as the human fleet began to move in ways that defied physics. Ships that had seemed bulky and slow suddenly revealed themselves as nimble predators, their movements coordinated with inhuman precision. The Federation Armada, designed to crush opposition through sheer numbers, found itself facing an enemy that refused to be crushed. Human ships danced between their formations, striking with devastating effect and vanishing before retaliation could arrive. "This is impossible," came the Chancellor's voice, no longer confident. "Your technology level was never what you thought it was," Admiral Zhang interrupted. "Did you really believe we would reveal our true capabilities to potential enemies?" Sarah understood then. The Harmony had been more than bait. It had been deliberate misdirection. The Federation had been allowed to see exactly what humanity wanted them to see, a peaceful species with minimal military capabilities. The reality was far different. You want to see our true capabilities? Zhang's voice carried across space. Allow me to demonstrate. What happened next would be remembered as the moment the galaxy changed forever. The human ships, all of them, began to glow, not with weapons fire, but with something else, energy that seemed to bend space itself. The Federation fleet, still confident in their numbers, pressed their attack. They flew directly into humanity's trap. Gravity wells active. Zhang announced, all units, execute final protocol. Space itself seemed to scream as the human fleet activated technology that had taken 70 years to develop. Artificial gravity wells erupted throughout the Federation formation, dragging ships together in crushing embraces of twisted metal and shattered dreams. The mighty Armada, moments before an unstoppable force, became a debris field of disabled vessels and broken hulls. Not destroyed, humanity was still showing mercy, but utterly defeated. Sarah watched the Chancellor's flagship. Its crystalline structure cracked and dark, drift helplessly among the wreckage of galactic arrogance. Chancellor, Admiral Zhang's voice was almost gentle. Are you beginning to understand? When the alien leader responded, her voice was broken. What are you? We are what you forced us to become, Zhang replied. You came to the galaxy expecting to find primitive worlds ready for conquest. Instead, you found a species that had been preparing for you since the day we learned you existed. Sarah thought about the last 70 years, the decades of secret preparation, the careful planning that had led to this moment. Humanity hadn't just built a fleet. They'd built a destiny. We offered you peace, Zhang continued. We sent diplomats hoping for cooperation. You chose to mock us, to threaten us, to treat us as inferiors. That was your mistake. The broken Federation fleet hung in space, a testament to the danger of underestimating humanity. But Sarah knew this was only the beginning. Word would spread throughout the galaxy. The humans were no longer hiding. Return to your Federation, Zhang ordered. Tell them that humanity claims its place among the stars. Tell them that Earth is under our protection, and we will defend it against any threat. As the surviving Federation ships limped away, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced since childhood. Pride in her species. They'd reached for the stars and found enemies. But they'd also found something else. The strength to make those enemies into friends, whether they wanted to be or not. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's peaceful intentions. Now it would learn to respect their strength. The age of human expansion was about to begin.